Hi, everyone. Josh Rucker here in studio early this morning with a quick weather update. I just want to make sure people understand I'm not going to be on for 45 minutes or an hour. We've got KNWA today coming up at 5 o'clock a.m. We're going to have all the latest details there, but just wanted to provide this weather update quickly this morning in order for you to get the latest information on what's going on and what we're expecting as we move throughout the rest of your morning commute. So let's get right to it. Got limited time right now. I'm going to try to get to as many questions as possible, but first want to get through all this information. Right now, starting to see that snow come down over a Gravette High School WeatherBug Network camera. Portions of Benton County already starting to report that heavy wet snow early this morning. That's only going to ramp up as temperatures continue to drop off. If we take a look at that Bella Vista camera, you can see a very similar story. Maybe some accumulation already starting to occur on those grassy surfaces as well. So confined to Benton County right now, because if we go a little bit farther south towards Fayetteville, you're going to see that there's no snow that's fallen quite yet, or at least not a whole lot of it that's showing up on radar or in the sky. But that will change relatively quickly as temperatures continue to drop off. In fact, if we take a look at High Heating Cooling Mega Doppler, you can already see that dynamic cooling beginning to take place over northwest Arkansas. That's why those heavier bands of snow are showing up in Benton County, while Fayetteville is still mostly rain, but I wouldn't be surprised if some snowflakes were already mixing in. If anybody's seen some snowflakes in Fayetteville, let me know. But right now, it does look like it's mostly rain in Fayetteville. Now, River Valley, check it out. Not a whole lot of energy to work with this system, so the dynamic cooling process is not going to take over as quickly, and that's why we're expecting very minimal impacts for areas along and south of the Bobby Hopper Tunnel. So check out those temperatures. Now, I'll say this. The temperatures are colder this morning than what the models were showing. Look at this. It's already 33 degrees at XNA, 33 in Rogers, 34 in Bentonville, and 34 degrees in Fayetteville. So definitely a lot colder already than what the models are showing. How much of a role does that play in the weather this morning? That's to be determined. That's going to depend on the track of the system as it continues to lift off to the north and east, but that's something to watch in northwest Arkansas. Now, the River Valley, I think it's going to remain above freezing throughout the duration of this event. I also think there's not a whole lot of energy to work with as well, so temperatures are going to remain above freezing, sitting at 40 degrees right now in Fort Smith, 42 in Boonville, and 39 in Poto. Again, those temperatures are going to struggle to drop off as that dynamic cooling process just won't be as quick with lighter rainfall totals. So that's what we're looking at right now. I thought that was a very interesting trend. We'll have to watch that very closely. I will say this is a pretty healthy snow band so far that's pushing through NWA. This is a look in northwest Arkansas right now. You can see it's just getting started, so we've got a lot of energy to work with. But this is why we're expecting higher snowfall totals the farther north you get. You can see that there's a lot more energy to work with in portions of southwest Missouri and Benton County. Well, the River Valley doesn't have a whole lot of precipitation left with this particular storm system. A lot of dry air beginning to intrude that area. That's why we do have that winter storm warning in effect for areas along and north of the Bobby Hopper Tunnel. 2 to 6 inches of snow will be common. Locally higher amounts can't be rolled out. That goes through about 6 o'clock today, but I do think the majority of the snow is going to be east of the area by the time we get to about 2, 3 o'clock this afternoon, northwest Arkansas, if not earlier than that. You never want to say it's going to be too early because you never know what these systems are going to throw, but most of the models are showing that at this time. You're going to see that reflected here on Future Track. Now, Future Track still showing temperatures just above freezing, right around 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. Again, that remains to be seen if that's the case. We're already a lot colder than what the models were showing last night, so I have my doubts about that. I think there's a chance it could be 32 degrees by 6 o'clock if dynamic cooling is taking place. But look at that convective banding that's going on there. It's even showing up on the models in Benton County, a little bit farther east towards Carroll County and Eureka Springs. That's something to watch very closely because that's going to enhance those snowfall rates. Now, this model does have the temperatures dropping off below freezing or right at it, right around 7, 8 o'clock, and then touching up above freezing once again as that snow kind of lightens up throughout the morning hours. This is something to watch very closely. The longer we have heavy snow, the colder the temperatures are going to get, and the greater the chance to have that snow pile up on the roadways. Now, this model is keeping the snow around through about 11, 12 o'clock. That's something that we're going to be watching very closely here. Now, temperatures are going to start warming up above freezing this afternoon, but as long as snow is falling, that's going to have some potential impacts on the roadways. It does look like the bulk of the activity is going to be off to the east of the area by the time we get to about 5, 6 o'clock. Here's the latest look at the models here in terms of snowfall amounts. This is the same model that we just looked at. You can see, again, not a whole lot of snow going on south of the Bobby Hopper Tunnel, but a very tight gradient between the haves and the haves-nots. At least according to this model, you can see southwest Missouri at 1.5 inches in Anderson, a little bit farther east towards Cassville, 6 inches. Again, this is just one model. A lot of things can and will change, but it does look like, at least right now, this model is showing that big, heavy snow swath moving through northwest Arkansas. And this is assuming a 10-to-1 snowfall ratio when we're really more at a 7-to-1 ratio with temperatures above freezing right now. Of course, our snowfall totals remain unchanged. I'm not going to sag south towards the River Valley because we're just not expecting a whole lot, but 4 to 6 inches of snow for portions of Benton, Carroll, and Boone County, 2 to 4 inches a little bit farther south towards Washington, Newton, and Madison County, and then not a whole lot of snow south of the Bobby Hopper Tunnel once again as you move towards the River Valley. So I got a lot of questions, a couple questions here that I'm seeing. So you're asking, can we expect bad roads? So we actually have a little bit of data that we could show you here, kind of an experimental product that actually shows the potential impacts to roadways. So if you just stand by for 1 second, I'll pull that up for you right now. But this is going to kind of show you what impacts we're expecting right now, according to the National Weather Service. Again, I've got about 5 or 6 more minutes here. So if you got any questions, I'll try to get to them. But we're going to have KNWA today starting in about 9 minutes or so. So I got to make sure we're ready to rock and roll there. So I'm going to pull this up here so you guys can see this. I know it's going to take a little while for the data to load. But this is what we call the Winter Storm Severity Index. So this is an experimental product that kind of gauges the potential impacts that we could see in portions of our area as we move throughout this event. Now, just stand by for a moment. It's going to take a little while for this data to show up, but here it is. So this is one thing I've been noticing over the last several hours or so. The impacts have been uptrending for Benton County. So now we're talking about moderate impacts in portions of southwest Missouri, in Benton County, as well as a little bit farther east towards Carroll and Boone County, as well as northern Newton County. The higher terrain of northwest Arkansas and Benton County right now expecting moderate impacts. Moderate impacts means that you can expect disruptions to daily life. You can expect the potential for closings and some pretty big time impacts on the roadways as well. That's according to the Winter Storm Severity Index. So I know you were asking about bad roads. If you live in Benton County, those roadways will have the potential to be a little bit more snow covered as that heavier snowfall begins to move in. And it doesn't matter that temperatures are above freezing. If you have heavy enough snowfall rates, you're going to see accumulation on the roadways. And once it starts accumulation on the roadways, it's going to keep piling up as snow continues to fall because it acts like a cooling process, cools off those roadways a little bit quicker, and allows for that snowfall to pile up. So we're going to have to watch that very closely. Good question right there. I'm glad we got this experimental product that we could show to you guys. Of course, in Washington County, a little bit farther east towards Madison and Newton County, we are expecting minor impacts, which can still cause some problems on the roadways. So that's something that we're going to be watching very closely right there. Okay, so I just got a word that Bentonville schools canceled for today. I think that's a good move right there. To be honest with you, I'm glad they made that decision early this morning. We'll see what happens with the other schools. I know a little bit farther east that the schools are more likely to close as well. In the higher train of northwest Arkansas, we'll see if that happens again. I don't make those decisions. That's up to the superintendents. But not surprised to see Bentonville's closed. I wouldn't be surprised if the other big four start closing as well. So we'll see what happens there as we go throughout the rest of this event. Beth is asking, will it melt quickly? So, Beth, it will melt quickly, but here's something I'm going to say right now. We're going to have refreezing overnight tonight to tomorrow. So even though the melting is going to occur quickly on the roadways this afternoon once the snowfall stops, we're dropping off into the upper teens and lower 20s tonight. That is going to cause refreezing on the roadways. So even though impacts will improve very quickly this afternoon once the snow starts, tomorrow morning it could be a slippery commute, especially on those bridges and overpasses. Black ice is going to be a big issue tomorrow morning if those roadways remain wet. So, yes, it will melt quickly, but that doesn't mean tomorrow will be hunky-dory in the morning. I think tomorrow morning could be a little bit dangerous there. So keep an eye on that, Beth, for those impacts tomorrow morning from black ice. How much snow is Oak Grove, Carroll County, Arkansas going to get, and could Oak Grove County lose power? So this is a good question on the power outage situation. So I'll show you the projected snowfall rates from this model because I think it has a pretty good idea. I'm going to move myself out of the way, and I'm still talking about your question, Melissa. So Carroll County, you can see, at least according to this model, it's showing a swath of heavier snow near Eureka Springs, near the Berryville area. I would not be surprised if that was the case, especially considering these areas are a little bit higher in terms of terrain. So I would say 3 to 6 inches is very likely in Carroll County, Melissa, with potential for locally higher amounts if that banding starts setting up. That's something we'll be watching very closely there. But again, it's going to be very tight. This is a boom or bust system. Big time bust in the River Valley. Not a whole lot of snowfall expected. Northwest Arkansas, there is the potential for pretty impactful snow, at least in the short term. April. Okay, so April, you're reporting that there's some snowflakes going on in Fayetteville right now. So thank you for that report. That's very useful right there because it is tough to see on the cameras right now. So the doggos starting to collect some snow there. That, by the way, that's a beautiful German Shepherd right there. Love that picture, April. But that's a good report right there. So starting to get some reports of some snow in portions of Fayetteville. Okay. I don't see any more questions right now. I'm going to be on for about 2 more minutes. So if you got one last question, just get that in right now because we're about to start on KNWA today. I got to get going there. You can watch that on channel 51, I believe, and most spots on NBC. We'll be on at 5 and 6 o'clock a.m. And we'll also be on Fox 24 News at 7 o'clock with the latest travel information as well. Siloam Springs, will they have power outages? So there is the potential for power outages because this is a wet snow hydra. So that can pile up on the trees, that can pile up on the power lines as well, and that could cause some issues. So that is something we're going to have to watch, especially in Benton County, where I think those snowfall totals could be a little bit higher, especially on those grassy surfaces and especially on those power lines. Joy is reporting a beautiful snow in Bella Vista. Let's go back to that Bella Vista camera real quick. Stand by. It's going to be pulling up right now. And you can see that snow falling right there at this time in Bella Vista. So thank you for that report, Joy. Snowing in Springdale. Good report right there. Snowing on and off in Westville. Adair County in Westville, Oklahoma. Jessica, probably lesser snowfall totals. I would say 1 to 3 inches. It would be my projection, but I think that I lean more towards the lower end of that just because there's not as much energy to work with in the Westville area. But maybe higher too. It just depends on when that dynamic cooling process starts to take over. But maybe less snow for Adair County, Jessica, there in Westville. My front porch is completely covered here in Decatur. Dog almost slipped off the porch. Oh, poor puppy. Oh, hopefully he's okay there. But stay safe out there, Sandra. We'll be keeping an eye on it for you here in the Weather Lab this morning. Ashley's reporting the back deck is covered in a thin layer of snow. So starting to get a lot of good reports right now. Everything is snow covered in Benton, Washington County, south of Cave Springs. So good reports this morning. I really appreciate you guys letting me know. There's the Decatur camera, by the way. You can see that snow starting to come down there. So, all right. I got to wrap this up because we are about to start on KNWA today. Again, you can watch that at 5 and 6 o'clock this morning. We can also watch us on Fox 24 News at 7. And, of course, I'll probably have another weather live stream coming up right after the shows are over as well to give you the latest information on travel as well as what's going on in terms of the latest future track. But that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really appreciate you guys. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you coming up in about 2 minutes. Have a good one, everybody.